welcome back to my channel here on YouTube. I am about a week behind in my pregnancy update, but here I am. Without further ado, let's get started on weeks 27, 28, and 29 update. So basically, recapping the last few weeks, most of it's going to be this past week, week 29. It was pretty eventful, and I'll get to that. Going back to like weeks 27 and 28 were not really eventful in terms of like pregnancy related stuff. I would say pretty much the only things I experienced those 2 weeks were a lot of fetal movement, which was good, an increase in fatigue, which I expected being the 3rd trimester, and an increase in being short of breath, which is also attributed to how big this baby is getting inside my belly and pushing up against my lungs. So that was pretty much it those 2 weeks. And then this week was the most eventful in terms of symptoms. So essentially Thursday I was 29 weeks in one day, but it was my 28-week doctor appointment visit. It was also my 1-hour glucose test. So I went in Thursday morning and did the glucose test. I was told by the doctor or the nurse rather, to have something light for breakfast that morning. So she suggested like a piece of toast. So essentially I drank my drink at home, had the piece of toast right after I drank it, and went to the lab at my OB's office an hour later to have my blood drawn. So that all went well, very successful, no problems, got there on time. And then 20 minutes after my appointment, I had an OB appointment for my 28 weeks. So a couple things happened during that visit. One was my blood pressure was high, which, if you guys have recalled before, I've had preeclampsia with my first baby, Jackson, and they had told me that that really doesn't put you at risk of having it a second time, but yet here we are, exhibiting some of the same symptoms, primarily number 1 being high blood pressure. So that was number 1, and number 2 was I was measuring big. She didn't tell me exactly my measurements, but I do know it was at least like 30 centimeters, which would be 30 weeks pregnant. So she was concerned about the blood pressure and the size of the baby. So we scheduled an ultrasound for today, and she actually had me go over to what they call their family center, which is basically labor and delivery in the hospital. My doctor's office is attached to the hospital, which is nice. So I went over there, and I was there for like 5 hours, which I was not expecting, but you do what you have to do to make sure baby's okay. So essentially they hooked me up, which I'll show here, to, it's called a fetal non-stress test. It's just the 2 little bands that go on your belly, and one measures contractions and the other measures the baby's heart rate. So obviously I'm not having any contractions, but they put that one on anyway, obviously, to make sure. And the other one is put on to measure heart rate. So I was hooked up to that for a few hours. And then I was also hooked up to a blood pressure cuff for the same amount of time, and it would go off like every 20 minutes to check my blood pressure. The same time they did a blood draw and a urine culture. So the urine culture is to check for protein in the urine, which usually if you have high blood pressure, it can also be accompanied or shown to have increased protein in the urine. And then the blood the blood draw obviously tests for a lot of different things that high blood pressure can affect. So like your kidney function, sometimes your liver function, things like that. So I was there for a few hours just hanging out while all that was going. The good news is the baby looks great, and you know, his heart rate increased with movement, which is exactly what they want to see. In fact, they said that he was exhibiting signs of like being a full-term baby, even though he's 29 weeks. So that's great to see. I'm happy that he is good. I did have a little bit of protein in the urine, but not enough in that sample to be alarming. I think it was around 200 milligrams, and they want to see a number, or they don't want to see a number over 300 in your urine. So, and I guess apparently normally we don't have any protein in our urine, or we just have very trace amounts. So they ordered for me to do a 24-hour urine collection Thursday into Friday. So anyway, baby looked good. Blood work came back okay, so that was good. And my blood pressure while I was there was not perfect by means, but it certainly wasn't as high as what they were reading in the doctor's office, so they weren't too concerned as of Thursday. And basically I think she was doing this as a precaution, sort of get like a baseline on me, so that if I start to have increases in numbers, they'll see that difference. So I was there for several hours. You know, it is what it is. It was an exhausting day though. Got home that night, started my 24-hour collection for urine, and then they called me at 5:45 to tell me I had failed my glucose test, which I was so bummed. And the one thing I was interested to know is my sister-in-law has diabetes, and so I asked her what is a normal, or what's considered normal for blood sugar, and she said anything under 140. And I had also read online that the ADA suggests that the limit for the glucose test is 140. My number was 135. However, my clinic uses a threshold of 130. And I also did read online that by using the 130 threshold, you tend to have more false positives. So either way, that was how they measure, and they said I would have to come back in for the 3-hour glucose test today. So Friday comes, I collected the sample, brought it back over to them for processing, and just was instructed to really start to take things easy from here on out for the rest of my pregnancy in terms of work and just doing things, which is hard because you're tired in your third trimester, but at the same time you're nesting. And I feel like you'll see, I'm going to do a video later today of baby's nursery, so you guys can see that. That's all complete, which is great. But now I just have like the urge to like organize closets and clean my basement and scrub my kitchen and all those things. And they really just don't want me to do any of that, which is really hard for me to do, especially now that I'm going to be home more. It's just tough, right? To literally force yourself to sit on the couch and not go anywhere, and not spend money on Amazon then, right? So I turned my sample in on Friday, came home, had a really hard time sleeping that night. I started to itch. So I woke up Saturday and noticed I had a rash, basically like from wrist to elbow on both arms, my jawline, my cheek up here, you can sort of see it there, and the weirdest part was my lip line, not the inside of my lips, but right at the edge of my lips, these tiny little white bumps. It's even like hard to see even in the light, but they itch like crazy. So I had posted on Instagram and my Facebook page if anybody had ever seen this, and several of my friends suggested that it was the PUPPS rash, which is related to pregnancy. And I did do some research online. It said that 70% of women who get PUPPS rash are expecting a boy, which I am. The only thing that was misleading was that it said normally it starts on your abdomen or your belly, and that it can sort of spread to other parts of your body. So I don't think that I have it on my belly. Of course, it's hard to see, so I'm not 100% sure. My belly does itch from time to time, but not like my arms and my face itch. So I've just been putting like Benadryl cream, which seems to help, and going about my way, and just figured I would ask my OB at today's appointment what it could be. So fast forward to today, I had my 3-hour glucose test scheduled for 8 a.m. Basically, you can't eat or drink 8 to 14 hours before the test. That's right. I didn't eat 14 hours before the test. So last night about 6 o'clock I had dinner, and I took a sleep pill because I had not slept really well over the weekend with the rash and the itching and the lower back pain that I've been experiencing, and went to sleep probably around 8 and slept until about 6:45 this morning. So I actually got a really good night's sleep, which was good. Woke up, headed into the doctor's office. Essentially, they do a blood draw right at 8 a.m. That's your fasting blood draw. And then right after you do that blood draw, then you drink the drink in 5 minutes. And this time it was a lot harder without something on my stomach, like any kind of food. And so within like 15-20 minutes of drinking it, I really felt lightheaded and dizzy and just wanted to lay down but couldn't because I was going to be there for another 3 hours. So I just sort of hung out in the waiting room for the next blood draw, which was roughly about 9:15. So I went back for that blood draw. The blood draws were easy. They were fine every hour. And I was scheduled to have an ultrasound done in between my 10 o'clock blood draw and my 11 o'clock blood draw to check on baby size. However, their ultrasound machine was down today. So I was kind of bummed about that. They were then going to send me over back to labor and delivery today to do another ultrasound. But they could never get a hold of the radiology department. I don't know why, I'm not sure. So essentially that's been rescheduled for Thursday back at their office. It just so happens that my doctor was in today. I was supposed to see her tomorrow, sort of after the glucose results, after the ultrasound results, but because the ultrasound machine was down, she's just like, I'll just see you today since you're here, which was good. But my blood pressure was high again, which is interesting because I had been checking it at home 3 times a day, and while it wasn't, again, like within like a good normal range, it was a little elevated. It wasn't elevated enough for me to contact them, in my opinion. But today my blood pressure was 130/90, which was not ideal. And then I started to talk to her about the rash. She does think it's the PUPPS rash, but they are also adding to my blood work today labs for cholestasis, which basically it's a different kind of rash that you can get in your 3rd trimester that's not good for the baby. The PUPPS rash doesn't really bother the baby, it just bothers the mother until delivery. Cholestasis rash has to do with like the bile produced in the liver, and yeah, basically if you have that, it's not ideal for the baby. So they are running those labs just to make sure it's not the more severe of the two. So hopefully I'll find out by the end of the week the results on that. Essentially, she's decided that I should come in twice a week now for the fetal non-stress test. They just do it right there in the office. You're there for about 20 minutes to track baby's heartbeat and movements, and it's like now for the rest of the pregnancy I'll be there 2 times a week, which isn't a big deal. I'd rather be safe than sorry and make sure our little boy is okay. He seems to be doing great. It just seems to be my health that's starting to decline, which is a bummer. But, you know, I'll just do whatever I can to make sure he's safe and stays in there hopefully as long as possible, at least till the beginning of December when I'm 37 weeks. That's like sort of my ideal time to have them. I don't really want to have them sooner than that. So it's been kind of a crazy week, to say the least. It's been a little stressful. It's been uncomfortable. But, you know, I'm still counting my blessings that we're here. I would never want to come across this complaining of this part of the pregnancy, because we worked so hard to get here, and a lot of you guys can understand that or know that if you've done IVF. It's just part of my plan, and I guess, you know, it's so similar to the pregnancy towards the end anyway that I had with Jackson, that it just might be my body's way of handling pregnancy. So we'll see. So essentially from here we'll find out hopefully tomorrow about the glucose test. I'm praying that it is negative, that I was just sort of in that weird cusp that they have a lower threshold for measurements. And hopefully we find out by the end of the week about the cholestasis, but I go back Thursday either way for the ultrasound and fetal stress test. So we did have a baby shower, online baby shower. I'll try to throw in a few pictures of that here at the end. It was such a success. We have friends from all over the country, even over the world, send us gifts. Just because we have so many friends and family that don't live where we live, it just seemed like the coolest way to do a shower. We did it on Facebook Live, which was really fun. So all the people who sent gifts or even just wanted to watch and participate were able to get on there and watch the shower. So that was a lot of fun, and we got so many things off of our baby registry that it's just, as you guys know, a lot of you know, like being self-pay for IVF was a huge commitment to us this year financially. So for all of those things to be purchased off our registry was just, it was just amazing. I can't even put into words like how blessed we are to have the friends and family and support and all of you guys to help us out. So there's just a few more things that we need to pick up in the next few weeks, and I think I need to spend some time working on the hospital bag and getting some items for that. But yeah, stay tuned. I hope to post a video today or tomorrow of the nursery tour, which I'm sitting in today. It is complete, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. So baby dust to everybody. I hope you all are doing good, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram if you're on there. It's kwhit, WHIT 1015. I'll post it here on the screen, and I post a lot of updates there daily of what's going on, so check me out there. And I hope you guys are doing well. Take care. Bye.